Hey, what's up guys? MKBHD here, and welcome to a first retail unboxing and second look at the 2020 Motorola RAZR. So their folding phone is finally out and starting to ship to buyers, and this is the unboxing experience that anyone who pays that $1,500 will eventually get. So this is it. This is the Motorola RAZR. Now, as a refresher, we first got to look at this guy a couple months ago when it was first revealed, and I did that hands-on video in the world's worst hands-on area. Good times. It got delayed a little bit. Now it's 2020, and we've gotten to the official launch date, and they're trickling out into stores and starting to ship them. So now that it's in hand, and now that the shiny new factor has worn off a little bit, I can't help but wonder, and maybe it's because I'm not as nostalgic, but is this phone, or is this form factor even a good idea to begin with? So here's a refresher. We have a 6.2 inch plastic OLED display, a little taller than 1080p, so it's 2142 by 876 with that 21 by 9 aspect ratio. Snapdragon 710 processor, 6 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, and one very satisfying hinge. So yeah, it's a folding phone, in case I haven't mentioned that yet. And holding this thing in the hand again, I'm reminded how thin this phone really is and how complex the hinge mechanism is. I mean, we knew it was complex, but it's really very unique and generally ends up giving you less of a crease than, say, the Galaxy Fold because of the way the display bends down into the frame and then unfolds and stretches, which is really smart. It bends taut over the middle, keeps it flat. But also there's a moment during the folding process where you can see like straight through behind the back of the display, which is potentially interesting for durability. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And of course, tune into the inevitable jerry-rig everything test. Also, one-handedness is something I always talk about in smartphones as they get bigger and bigger. And with this one, it's a multi-part answer. So when it's open, I think it's perfectly one-handable. So you can reach the corners, you can get down to the bottom of the display. It's not super uncomfortable. Now it is a bit different than normal because you have a hinge in the middle and you can feel it. And there's all sorts of ridges and bumps along the sides and the back while you're holding it. So it does feel different from a normal phone, but you can still reach what you need to thanks to the narrower aspect ratio. It's not too bad. But then I absolutely cannot open the phone with one hand, or at least I wouldn't want to like this in everyday life. Maybe it's the shape of my finger. I don't know what it is, but that means every time I want to open the phone, or at least get past that outside screen, you need to have two hands free. I don't know if that's going to get annoying yet, but that's just the truth for me right now. Which brings me to just my general overlying question, which is, of all the ways to do a folding phone, is this way, the 6.2 inch screen, but folds in half to be more pocketable, is this the best way to do it? Like, I know not everyone can say this, but I can already fit a phone around 6.2 inches in my pocket just fine. But even if you can't, at the moment, the choice is between getting a phone that folds in half versus just getting a slightly smaller phone. I think I would rather have a fold to enable putting something in my pocket that I couldn't before, like a 7-inch or an 8-inch screen, like an iPad mini, like a small tablet size. This to me is just a normal size phone getting even smaller, which is more pocketable, sure, but this is the RAZR, and so it's gotta look like the iconic RAZR. In fact, that's basically what Motorola told me, is they first picked the iconic RAZR design and then went to engineering to try to figure out what they could fit in this crazy thin form factor in order to achieve this RAZR, not the other way around. So that's why we have this crazy, cool, thin design, but also why we have some of the crazy specs and the weird compromises. That's why the battery cells are split into two parts to keep the weight of this flip phone fairly even, not too top heavy, not too bottom heavy. And then this thinness means you're combining those two cells for a total of just over 2,500 milliamp hours. That's very small. It's also why the buttons are so thin. You know, the power and volume buttons on one side, they can't be much thicker than they are, or they wouldn't fit on the phone. And this design is why you ended up with the chin. The original Razer had the iconic chin and the curve gently to that chin so that you could flip it out and it was natural looking. So this new Razer also has that curve, and it puts as many of the electronics as it can in that chin, like the display drivers, the fingerprint reader, and the downward facing speaker. And this phone also maxes out at 15 watts charging, which normally isn't considered really fast, but then again, the battery's so small that that's actually debatable. No wireless charging, too thin for that. No SIM card, only eSIM, and no expandable storage, no dust or water resistance. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's definitely still an impressive phone. The folding display mechanism is this wild engineering that you've ended up with to have less of a crease, but you know, there's two sides of every coin. But you know what, the real question is, does it end the call when you slam it shut? And I guess there's only one way to find out, is to connect them and just end the call. And it does. So, I mean, I guess that's worth it? I don't know. It's $1,500. There really is only one way to find out if it's worth it or not, and that is to use it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to daily drive the Razer. I'm going to use this as my phone for a while. If you want to follow along with how this goes, that'll be over on Twitter. So that'll be updates on things like battery life, how well durability ends up being, camera quality, and probably just some rants sprinkled in there. But more importantly, let me know in the comments what you want to see in the full review. I know CNET just did a robot folding it and unfolding it thousands of times. I won't be doing that. Also because we didn't really see that actually demonstrate the durability of the Galaxy Fold, so I don't see why it would work on other folding phones. But what else do you want to see actually talked about? Maybe it's battery life, maybe it's camera quality, maybe it's the ratio between using that outside display for notification management versus the inside screen. All of that, I'm curious for your comments, and we'll get to that pretty soon. Catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Peace.